Okay, so it's Mr. Bleecker here. Going over a couple of sample exam questions. The first, for the respiratory system, is describe events that occur during inspiration. So I zoomed in a little bit here, a little more room. If I was to answer this question, coming up with three specific points, the first one I would say is that the ribs move up. Well, the rib and the rib cage, you could feel this with your hands, moves up and out as the intercostal muscles contract. This creates space in your thoracic cavity. Second thing that happens is that your diaphragm contracts in a downward fashion like that. Now what that does, I'm going to just draw that up here, as the diaphragm contracts, say this is the initial state like this, and we'll draw your lungs like this. It's a little pathetic, but we'll hook them up to a makeshift trachea here in a second. Okay. As this moves down, that creates a lot of negative internal pressure. So this bows down, I'll exaggerate it, and the lungs fill that space. They actually increase in volume. So the diaphragm moves down through contraction. You'd have to note that point. That's contraction. And third, the negative thoracic pressure, negative thoracic cavity pressure, creates a situation where the atmosphere outside has greater pressure, and that pushes air into the lungs. So, pushes air into your lungs. So it's kind of interesting when you think about it. It's not that you're pulling the air in, it's that it's being pushed in by the atmosphere. Now, the similar idea is, think about it this way. If you're in a submarine and you opened a hatch underwater, the water would just rush in. It's the submarine doesn't suck it in. It's the pressure. It's the greater pressure outside that would just push it in. Essentially, all that water would just blow right into the submarine. It'd be terrible. Okay, next question. Is it impossible for you to cease your existence if you decided to hold your breath? Well, interesting part about this is not really. What would happen is you would get a buildup of carbon dioxide, and you can also think of it, remember that carbon dioxide is also expressed as H2CO3, and we've also got the bicarbonate ions, HCO3 minus. Now what would ultimately happen is that would send signals to the brainstem, send signals to your brainstem, some pretty raging signals to breathe. So just because you don't want to, you couldn't really hold your breath. Even if you pass out, your brainstem, which is your medulla oblongata, will just send signals to your body to breathe. So even if you held your breath as long as you could, and you essentially, if you passed out from lack of oxygen, the buildup of carbon dioxide and bicarbonate ions in the blood and hydrogen ions would just be an urgent message to your medulla oblongata, and you would just start breathing. So the answer is no, not really. Okay, now a little bit further, question 3 talks about the role of hemoglobin and the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, it's not a very heavily weighted question, so how would I go at this? What I would say is that hemoglobin can be oxygenated. So this isn't quite it's not really a molecular formula. We're not trying to do that. What we're trying to say is that you have oxyhemoglobin at this point, and it will be nice and red, just like rust would be. Okay. And hemoglobin is basically iron, and there are, think of it as 4 disc-like surfaces for oxygen molecules to attach to in sort of your large sort of hemoglobin sort of structure. Okay, that quaternary protein. Now, carbon dioxide, in order to run back, just pause here for a sec. Okay, just to finish this off, hemoglobin is oxygenated, forming sort of a bright red compound. I'm drawing on it here. There we go. But this is reversible. So it's just transport on the red blood cells for oxygen. And so as this passes around the body, oxygen will diffuse from hemoglobin into the tissues, which would be lower in oxygen content. So that's just a concentration gradient. Now, there is a little bit of hemoglobin affinity for carbon dioxide. So, amino, it's a long word, hemoglobin. I think I got that right. There we go. Now, this is another loose association. So, I said originally that some carbon dioxide can piggyback on or alongside with hemoglobin, but the major way that carbon dioxide moves around in the blood is there's an enzyme on the edge of our red blood cells. Draw a little biconcave disc there. So basically an enzyme there which does its best to take carbon dioxide and water, and what we get is I won't balance the reaction, I don't really have enough room. We get H2CO3, which is bicarbonate ions. Okay, so I'll draw it like this. And you can also get, not a lot of room here, you can get hydrogen ions, and you can get HCO3-, which is bicarbonate ions. In this form, you can think of CO2 as basically being trapped in its aqueous form. And as it travels around to the blood, once it gets very close, you get to about the lungs, this reaction itself, carbonic anhydrase, which we talked about quite a bit there for a while, a second enzyme. The second enzyme will sort of push the reaction in this direction, right here. And we'll get quite a buildup of carbon dioxide. And that will enter the lungs and is exchanged with the atmosphere as a waste product. Okay, so that's quite a bit there. Not a lot of room to write, but I think I've hopefully been able to answer that question. Let's see what's on our next slide. Not that anybody should try said thing. Okay. Let's see here. Oops, that's not really what I wanted. Pause this. Okay, question number 4. This is on page 8. It says, what would happen if the lung cavity were punctured? If the lung cavity were punctured, what you would get, and if you've ever taken a first aid course, they describe this as a sucking chest wound. And instead of breathing through instead of the air just coming in through your trachea, the negative pressure in your thoracic cavity as your diaphragm goes up and down would try to pull air in through the wound. So you would get what's called a sucking chest wound. Okay. Which is not good. Essentially, if this were your side and your body cavity, let's just say this is your diaphragm, so move down. If this were the rupture in this spot right here, the air would try to rush in, try to be pushed in. Okay, that's obviously a problem. So what they do, this gets sealed. You can seal it with a wrap. You have to cut it off from the air because the negative internal pressure, this will just act just like your trachea would from this position. So you get a sucking chest wound, and if the lung cavity itself is punctured, another side effect that you can get here is you would get frothy blood. In fact, you'd get red. There's a great deal you could write about this, but let's make sure I've got the color that I want. There we go. Red, bubbly, frothy blood. So there's plenty of criteria. There's more that goes along with this, but the best thing to do in a situation like this, put your hand over and you literally tape a piece of sterile material. It can even be like saran wrap over the wound itself to just cut it off. You have to make sure that the person can't breathe through the side of their chest, and it just introduces all sorts of problems with infection. Okay, so that's page 8. Let's see here. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, and that's pretty well it for questions. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. Have a good one, folks.